Joining me now to discuss all of this on set is Tamara Keith, senior White House correspondent for NPR, former New York Democratic Congressman Joe Crowley, and Sara Fagan, former Bush White House political affairs director and an NBC News contributor. Thanks to all of you for being here on an incredibly busy Friday. Tam, let me start with you. It seems like a shutdown is all but inevitable at this point. What are you hearing?
Absolutely. There doesn't seem to be a mathematical way to make this happen because Speaker McCarthy can't pass anything, and he certainly doesn't want to bring the bipartisan legislation that the Senate is trying to get together on. So I think the question is how long rather than avoiding it.
Sara, what do you make of that? And again, as I just laid out, yes, there can be a short-term price to pay for a government shutdown, but so far, when we've looked back, it doesn't seem like it's really hurt in the long term. Too soon to say how it might impact 2024, but what's your take on where we are?
Well, I think to your point politically, like voters have such short memories. And so, you know, perhaps there's impact in Virginia, but in 2024, I think this will likely be a distant memory. I think, you know, where we go from here is I think there's still time to put something together. There's a scenario where you could put a week-long compromise together and get a few other bills done, perhaps. But there doesn't seem to Tamara's point, there doesn't seem to be a path that's visible today. But Speaker McCarthy won, I think it was on 13 votes. So he's got a pretty remarkable skill, so I don't count him out yet.
Or maybe pain threshold.
Yes, fair.
Exactly. Joe, what do you make of what we're seeing from Democrats and the White House? Because Republicans today interviewed Congressman Bob Good. He said, look, the Senate's got to work this out. We've been passing bills, and now the Senate's got to pass one. Okay, the Senate does seem on track to actually pass a bipartisan CR this weekend. But do you think everyone gets some blame here, or do you think it largely falls on Republicans?
I think you see a real trend here. Republicans control the House of Representatives. A Democrat is in the White House. The government will ultimately shut down at some point. It did happen during Trump when Republicans held both the House and the Senate, and that was over the border issue as well. But it really is just not good governance. And what's really doing, I think, in terms of the Republicans themselves, those marginal Republicans, the Mike Lawlers of the world, you know, they had to take a tough vote today to cut 30% from Social Security. Those aren't going to be television ads. You know, you're going to see that on over and over and over again. So it's not just those 21 who voted no. It's all those Republicans who had to vote yes for something they didn't really want to vote for.
Yeah. Well, and the House failed to pass something today, as we're discussing. This is what Dusty Johnson had to say, who helped craft this short-term continuing resolution.
What I've always wanted for 2 weeks is let's give members an opportunity to say, this shutdown's not my fault. I'm voting to keep the government open, cut spending, and secure the border.
I mean, this kind of goes to the point that we're making here, Tam, but I mean, is that, when Americans see that, when voters see that, does a frustration sink in?
Yeah, I'm not sure how closely voters are following every single vote. The challenge for House Republicans right now is they can't really say, well, we passed a bill to fund the government and that Senate and the president won't cooperate and they won't come our way, because they didn't pass the thing that would give them the political cover to make that case. But are voters following it closely, or are they going to say, oh, a pox on all their houses, Washington, they can't govern?
Yeah. Congressman Bob Good, who I interviewed earlier today, I asked him about this chatter that some conservatives might try to essentially hold a vote to recall his speakership. Sara, do you think he can hold on? Can he survive this?
Well, I think it depends on how this all plays out. But, you know, I think that's the biggest factor. Those same 20-ish people didn't want him to ever become speaker, and he is the speaker. And, you know, I think sort of short of going and cutting some deal behind their backs, you know, he has a wide popularity within that caucus. He does have some strong vocal naysayers, and they are making life very difficult for him. But there's a path that he can navigate through. It's not yet clear what it is, but I'm confident he can figure it out.
Yeah, and I should say Congressman Good wouldn't commit to supporting him or not, which was very notable, Joe. If you're the speaker and listening to some of these interviews, more and more people seem to be more vocal about questioning his path. But I guess the question is, if not Speaker McCarthy, then who? Well,
that's a good question. Sometimes the devil you know is better, right? For Democrats. I think part of the bigger problem for Republicans is that they haven't really accomplished much. What are you going to show for next year when you're running? So it may very well be more heightened in terms of shutting down the government. Depends on how long it goes as well.
I think
and how much pain is involved, right? So.
Yeah. Tam, final point on McCarthy. You think he survives?
The question is how long, I think.
Okay.
Because maybe he survives this CR or this moment. But, with every single one of these incidents where 15 votes to become speaker and then a rule fails, that never happens. Like, one step after another, he keeps sort of crossing a Rubicon of something that no speaker has ever had to stomach before.
Yeah, it's really a fascinating moment. And we saw another fascinating moment with the GOP primary debate this week. And I want to read you some new reporting from the New York Times, which says that the Club for Growth was testing anti-Trump messages and more than 40 were ineffective. They write, quote, examples of failed ads cited in the memo included attacks on Mr. Trump's handling of the pandemic, promotion of vaccines, praise of Dr. Fauci, insane government spending, failure to build the wall, recent attacks on pro-life legislation, refusal to fight woke issues, openness to gun control, and many others. Sara Fagan, 40 of these messages were ineffective. What does that tell you?
Well, I think, look, in a national poll, Donald Trump is going to be ahead 40 points. He's going to be very popular. This is not a national election. It's not a national primary. I remember back in the 2000 campaign, George W. Bush led every single poll in New Hampshire, and he lost by 18 points because independents came out and voted against him and voted for John McCain. So that dynamic can happen. It will take one of these early states to create a domino effect of change. I think that looks long today. I'm not sugarcoating the odds of it, but I'm saying you've got to get to these early states. And if one of these folks emerges and even significantly beats expectations, the dynamic will shift very quickly.
Yeah, it's a really good point. Tamara, first of all, your reaction to this reporting in the New York Times, and even within these states, though, Trump has a double-digit lead in most cases.
Right. I don't think it's necessarily surprising that all of these messages failed. People have been trying to attack him one way or another. Many of those messages we saw on the debate stage this week, and nothing has changed in the dynamic. There has to be like an asteroid or something bigger than any of these individual messages, because these candidates have been trying them. They
either don't believe it or they don't care.
Right.
So he's still way ahead in the polls. So.
Is it a matter of if they had started earlier, it could have made a difference? You don't think so?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Both of you agree on this point.
No, I don't think it's a time-based issue. I think it's that just you look back at the dynamics of the last many years related to Trump, and I think it all started going south for chances of beating him during that kind of Ukraine first impeachment, where the electorate said that now has been debunked, that wasn't fair, it wasn't right, he got impeached for something he didn't do, and now nothing that is said about him is believed.
That's an interesting point. Well, one thing that was said about him this week, Joe Crowley, was by President Biden, who sharpened his attacks, delivered an entire speech about the threat to democracy that he believes former President Trump poses. What did you make of that speech and of this moment? I mean, is it a sign that the general election has in some ways begun?
Absolutely. I think they've already shifted their focus and gears towards Donald Trump. He's the inevitable nominee. There's nothing going to stop him. And I think you can see this in the debates. The debates are going to be viewed by fewer and fewer people because they don't matter. Even Trump said, stop the debates, we're only attacking each other, right? I think in the end, as long as he's not there, these are not real debates, quite frankly. And they're all either vying for second place or future. That's about it.
Okay, great conversation. Thank you all. Hope you have a great weekend and busy weekend covering developments on the Hill.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.